Hello everyone and welcome to this latest episode of Book Time with Elvis with me, Mark. And today I was inspired to make this video by my reading of an article in The Guardian yesterday. The article entitled 1 in 5 UK children do not own any books of their own. And it got me thinking, what the situation might be like here in the Czech Republic, for example, because I live here, it's been my home for the last 10 years. So I plan to ask all the children at school. Luckily, I've got a fairly small school, under 200 children, and find out what their own situation is. And this article came about due to a report published by the National Literacy Trust in the United Kingdom that states that, as I say, 1 in 5 children between the ages of 5 and 8 years old do not have access to books at home. And they go on to cite various reasons for that, one being, of course, economic problems as a result of various reasons, I suppose, the pandemic, maybe Brexit, that kind of thing. That means the families have less disposable income to spend on books for their children. Of course, rising cost of living as well. They surveyed a load of parents. 87% of them said they have less disposable income before, whereas 67% of them 64% of them went on to say that the amount of money they have to spend on books for their children has decreased. And then a further 51%, just over half of them, say that books are simply too expensive. Now, I've been out of the UK for a long time. I can't really say how much books cost. I do think, however, I'm pretty sure they are cheaper than they are here in the Czech Republic, and unless things have changed since I've been away, there's no value-added tax, there's no VAT on books in the UK. There is here in the Czech Republic. There's a 10% VAT on books. And I would say books here are, for people, very expensive, but children don't lack access to books. For example, we have excellent public libraries, and I know, of course, there are public libraries in the UK and public libraries that are free to join. And of course, schools have their own libraries generally. Certainly, even here we have a very small library. It might only be, I guess, it's basically 2 large book cabinets. That's it. Because as I say, we're a small school, but the children can help themselves to whatever they want. They just come and ask for the key. They fill it in a book, and that's that. They take it home. No worries there. So I don't know. It just got me thinking, really. Whether or not it's a question of priorities. Of course, if you have to choose between heating your home and feeding your family and buying books, then it's not a choice. Well, maybe for some of us, we might miss a meal in order to buy a book for ourselves, but we would never probably do that, of course, for our family. I know I wouldn't make Elvis go without something, my dog, because I, wanted to buy an expensive book. That just wouldn't happen, of course. I'd rather go without. And, if I feel like that way, I know I'm not a parent, so, people will be the first to say, oh, you don't understand these things, Mark. But, the closest I have to it is, of course, my relationship with Elvis. But I can understand books being, seen as expensive, and perhaps, as I say, people not looking at them as a priority. But I do wonder what those parents do spend money on if it's not just essentials. I can well imagine a lot of those children who don't have access to books. I don't know if it's a lot, but quite a few of them probably do have, of course, internet access. They might have a smartphone. They might have some video game situation. Of course, if they don't have any of these things, and if they are in, absolute poverty, then it's an horrific situation that needs to be addressed. But honestly, this article disturbed me to the point where I felt I had to make a video, because as I say, I'm just completely shocked that in the 21st century, in a country as well off as the United Kingdom, 1 in 5 children between the ages of 5 and 8 do not have access to books at home. I cannot understand how that is possible and how we've let that become possible, because it's going to affect the future significantly. Those children are going to fall behind, and they've fallen even further behind because those children who had access. I mean, there's another article within the Guardian's education system section that discusses how the literacy rates among children, obviously, who had access to books at home during the lockdowns and the pandemic, their reading levels increased dramatically. So, of course, those children who didn't have access are going to be even further behind in their reading ages than those children who did. The report, or the article that discusses the report, mentions, that these repercussions are basically going to be huge, because those children, if they don't have access to books, will not fall into regular reading habits, and they will be held back at school. It will affect them when they come to get a job. It can also affect their mental health, their physical health. And Jonathan Douglas, the chief executive of the National Literacy Trust, even says it can affect your life expectancy. And I just think that's absolutely, well, I'm almost speechless having read it and seen the situation. I do wonder what the situation is like in all of your countries. I know various programs exist which aim to help children in such situations. I believe Dolly Parton has a wonderful scheme where she sends a book a year to children of certain ages who sign up for that scheme, and I think that's absolutely fantastic. I believe Bill Gates, through his foundation or one of his foundations, helps promote literacy, and I'm not sure if it's domestically in the United States, but I'm sure it's throughout the third world. And even in the UK, I was seeing McDonald's has provided 500,000 books to children who don't have access to them. And they've teamed up with a British television personality, Vernon Kay, in order to do that. The thing is, though, I do wonder as well about the parents and the way the parents motivate their children to read. How much of it's a question that the children won't read rather than can't read. I know plenty of children who have very well-educated parents who just don't read. They have no inclination to pick up a book. Perhaps, I don't know if it's right for parents to push them. Certainly, I think it's right for them to gently nudge them in the direction of reading books, especially if those parents themselves happen to be readers. But I do worry very much about the addiction of children to computer games, TikTok, that kind of stuff, where they would rather do any of these things than pick up a book. Children associate books far too often with school and being forced to do something. I know, again, from my own experience, that if I am speaking to a class of children and we talk about reading as a hobby, the children who admit to reading do so, and find they're in a minority. I also know that many children lie about their reading habits. Plenty of children read but don't want to admit it to the class. They'll tell me afterwards that they actually do like reading, but they don't want to be laughed at. And that is shocking. I say, I don't know if it's a problem only within the country I'm in. I doubt it very much. It doesn't seem, we talk all the time about whether reading is cool or sexy or that kind of thing, and some people say definitely not, and other people say yes. I think it's sad we don't live in a society where it is seen as extremely cool to read books. It's the same way as, like, and I'm sure this is the same across a lot of countries. The kids who consistently get good grades or good marks at school are never really lauded by their schoolmates. The cool kids, it seemed to be cool to be a bit cheeky and get kind of middle of the road to low marks or grades in school, which is terrible. I mean, it's a terrible indictment, I think, for our society, whereas we should be putting those children who get the good grades on a pedestal. Now, obviously, it's other children doing that, I guess, but again, sometimes I think it comes back to, what priority or what importance as well the parents put on reading. And I have to say, from friends of mine, and I know it's not just my generation, of course it's in the older generation, also a younger generation of parents who don't read either. And of course there are plenty of people, and some of you as well, who are voracious readers, who come from families who maybe barely picked up a book. Somehow you found your way and did it. I was very lucky. I grew up in a family that absolutely encouraged reading. Both my parents read a lot and read a lot still, very widely. My parents always said to me as a child they would never refuse me a book. They might refuse me the latest Nintendo game, but if there was a book I really wanted, I 99% of the time got it. Even outside of Christmas and birthdays and that kind of thing. So I do see that I'm very lucky. But as I say, I can't understand how it can be that these children can have zero access, with free libraries, with second-hand bookshops. I don't know. I was surprised talking to someone the other day that sometimes the second-hand bookshops or charity shops in the UK, the books aren't as cheap as I remember them years ago. I mean, I thought books would have been like 50 pence to a pound, but it seems that it isn't necessarily the case these days. So, this is just a kind of ramble video, but something that's given me a lot of thought, and as I say, really disturbed me to the point where I want to do something about it. I'm really hoping, of course, I will find out that within the school I work at, all the children have access to books. Well, I know they've got access to books at school, but I don't know whether they've got access to books at home. And I'm sure those that don't, very often don't have access because they just don't want to. They don't have interest, and their parents aren't bothered by it. But I think if I find a child, again, I'm lucky given the small size of my school, that needs a book or wants some books at home, then I would find it very hard not to get those books for them myself. Even if it meant me not having the book I wanted next month or whatever, because I look at books for children as being as essential almost as those other essentials. I mean, books are food for the mind, and it's just beyond me how we can be in this situation in a country like the UK, and how the government can allow this to happen. The report that I'm talking about also went on to say that reading, the only a third of parents state that reading plays a central role in their child's daily routine. How is that possible? I mean, I would think reading would have to play a central role in the daily routine in some form of most children. And yeah, I can't get it. I really don't know. And yeah, one interesting thing though I did find was again, according to this report, that children who do have access to books at home are 6 times more likely to read above the level expected for that age. And I can well believe that. I mean, I was always well ahead of my age. My reading age was much higher than my biological age. And it's just, I don't know. I mean, I'm not even sure how well structured this video is. It's kind of made emotionally, but it just beggars belief. So really, I kind of maybe just want to, start a discussion, either in the comments, or encourage you to make your own video after looking into maybe a little bit the situation within your own countries. But I also think, as I say, it's important to really look at the desire as well on the part of their parents to make books a priority. Okay, as I say, not necessarily on the same level, of course, as sustenance or heat in winter, but I'm sure there are other things those children do not need that they have, which would be better off being replaced by books. It's disturbing. It's disturbing, and as I say, let me know your thoughts, and let me know whether you think it is a question of children. That it's not a question of children can't read; it's that they won't read, or if you think it's a question that they can't read rather than they won't read because they haven't got access, they haven't got encouragement, they haven't got support at home. So not a very cheerful video, especially for people like us, I would imagine, but there it is, and I think it's something worth addressing. Thank you so much for watching, and I do look forward to hearing any points from yourselves. Do take care, everybody. Bye bye.